Good day, learners! Today, we are going to study the English 8, Quarter 1, Module 4, which is entitled Using Transition Signals. This module was designed and written to help you master the skills in using transition signals to indicate coherence in writing sentences and paragraphs. What do they express? You are right. The underlined words are called modals. These modals express different uses: giving preference, stating probability, expressing obligation, indicating possibility, giving prohibition, asking permission, seeking advice, showing ability, making request, demonstrating willingness, and manifesting lack of necessity. And have you noticed the words written in bold print? Those words are because, also, in addition, therefore, even though. So, what do you think do these words express? Obviously, these words are samples of transition signals. So as we go through the modules, we will find out and we will discover more about these signals. And to help you better understand the concept on transition signals, you need to deepen your knowledge and understanding by discovering what the topic is all about. So, let's study the given sentences here. First sentence, threats and trials were rough. Second sentence, life is full of challenges but meant to be well. Please take note of the underlined words. And I am giving you a minute for you to study and understand the sentences here. Alright, time's up. Let's study each sentence. So in sentence number 1, the transition signal "and" is used to connect two incidents equally. And what are our incidents here? So the first incident is threats. Then the second incident is trials. So we used the transition signal "and" to connect these two incidents equally, which means that they are of same type. Okay, so they were both rough. So that's it. So while in sentence number 2, life is full of challenges but meant to be well. The transition signal "but" introduces the opposite ideas. Alright, so we have two ideas here. The first idea is life is full of challenges. Then the second idea is meant to be well. So we use the transition signal "but" to introduce the opposite ideas. They have the opposite ideas. Okay, one is a negative one, and the second one is a positive. Okay, so that's how we use the transition signal "but" here. And please take note that simple conjunctions serve different purposes. Conjunctions that join words, phrases, or clauses together are the most basic transition signals. The words "and" and "but" are example of transition signals. Let's have now the definition of transition signals. So when we say transition signals, these are words and phrases that connect ideas of sentences and paragraphs for coherence. They also indicate building up new idea or thought, or compare ideas or draw conclusions. And transition signals are of different types, and each type helps to make certain connection. And we have here the types and functions of transition words. So first we have comparison or contrast. We use these transition words to point out alternatives or differences. And we have here a table wherein we have an example for comparison and contrast. So for comparison, these are the transition words: as, also, likewise, similarly, in the same way. So obviously, comparison, we use this for alternatives. Okay? And for contrast, we use it to point out differences. And the examples that we have here are but, despite, however, even though, and on the contrary. We have here an example for comparison and contrast. Let's read the sentence. My mom loves pasta, but she dislikes spaghetti. Similarly, she did not like lasagna. On the contrary, she loves macaroni. Likewise, she loves pancit guisado, pancit bihon, sotanghon, and palabo. So what are the transition signals that we used here? We have but, similarly, on the contrary, and likewise. So as you can see, we have the comparison and contrasting transition signals. For comparison, we have similarly and likewise. And for contrast, we have but and on the contrary. So that's it for number 1, for comparison and contrast transition signals. Number 2, chronology. It helps define time, which means these are the words that shows order of time. So these are the examples: after, later, before, next, during, simultaneously, first, and soon. So let's have the example. Before you go to the stadium to watch your favorite basketball game, make sure that you have your snacks and video camera that you will use during the game. Later, You will find it enjoyable when you can simultaneously eat while videotaping. So we have the transition words before, during, later, simultaneously, which shows the definition of time or the order of the events. Next, we have number 3, cause effect. It shows the consequences of an action, that if you do this, this might be the result or this may happen. Okay, so for cause, we have accordingly, because, due to, and since. And for effect, we have consequently, as a result, therefore, and so. Let's check the example for these transition signals. Since you have been a consistent honor student and a skillful one, therefore, there would be a possibility that you would graduate cum laude or be cited with Technical Skills Award in college. As a result, you would have a better chance to find a job or be an entrepreneur, because some companies would prefer those applicants with impressive school records or those with technical skills. Okay, so we have seen that the cause and effect relationship in this example. The cause is if you will study hard or study well, or you'll be an honor student, there's a possibility that you will have a chance to find a good job, because it's true that some companies would prefer to hire an applicant who has a good or excellent educational background. So that's it. And for number 4, we have illustration or example. It add emphasis or introduce evidence, which means that it can show proof, or we use this to show evidences or proof. Okay, so for illustration, we have to demonstrate specifically and truly. And for example, we have, for example, of course, such as and namely. Okay, so let's see the example for this transition words. Mateo loves vegetables. Truly, he is happy to eat those every day, specifically pinakbet, chop suey, and vegetable salads. To demonstrate his love for vegetables, Mateo is planning a vegetable socials for all his friends. So we see this, we see here that it gives emphasis to the sentence Mateo loves vegetables. So it gives us example of the vegetables, and also an illustration on how Mateo will show his friends how he loves the vegetables. Number 5, addition. Adds information or reinforces ideas. So it adds supporting information. So we have here furthermore, in addition, also, as well, moreover, equally important, and then. Okay, so let's check the example for this. Gabriel loves, respects, and obeys his parents. Moreover, he helps in the household chores if he is not studying. Furthermore, he is grateful that his parents are very supportive in every task he does. Okay, so we have here the first sentence, Gabriel loves, respects, and obey his parents. So the first transition words that we have, the first transition word that we have here is and. Okay, and next is moreover and furthermore. So these transition words helps the first sentence to add information or reinforce its idea, the idea of Gabriel as an obedient child to his parents. Number 6 is clarification. It shows support. Again, it shows support. Example that we have are that is, I mean, in other words, in this case, to put it another way, and under certain circumstances. Okay, so let's check the example for these transition words. I love going to school. That is, I like it very much. In other words, I want to learn more. To put it another way, a school is one of the best places I need to go for me to learn better. So, as you can see, we have the first sentence, I love going to school. And the transition words such as that is, in other words, to put it another way, help the first sentence or support it with other supporting words or ideas that shows how the subject loves going to school. Number 7 is qualification. It presents conditions or intentions. Okay, so we have here the examples. Almost, probably, with this in mind, frequently, possibly, and never. Let's have the examples. With what was possibly the greatest fight of all times, the Filipino in the front lines faced the pandemic with bravery. They almost gave up but recovered. With this in mind, Filipinos have proven time and again to be resilient. Okay, so the transition words that we used are possibly, almost, with this in mind, which show the condition and the intention. Lastly, we have number 8, summary or conclusion. It restates ideas. Okay, so for summary, we have, as can be seen, given this point, to summarize, to sum up, and so. And for conclusion, we have, in the long run, in conclusion, to conclude, therefore, and finally. Again, the functions of these transition words is to restate ideas. Okay, so let's check the example. All the documents have been presented and, as can be seen, the facts are clear. Given this point, it's time to correct the practices that do not conform to the policies. In the long run, the nation and its people will benefit from this change. Okay, so we use the transition words as can be seen, given this point, in the long run, to restate the ideas. Alright, so we're done with the discussion of the transition signals, its types, and its functions together with its sample sentences. So I guess you are all ready for our practice activity. But you need to take note of this. Transition signals can be used within a single sentence, between two different sentences, paragraphs, or even between paragraphs to achieve coherence or unity of ideas, just like what we have in our examples. Alright, so let's start with the practice activities. Okay, so before we start, please provide a sheet of paper and a pen for you to write your answers. Okay, so for this activity, it is entitled Pick Me Out. Okay, so from the brick wall, as you can see on your screen, you have to pick out the transition words. The transition words that we have discussed. Okay, and write your answers on your paper. Just a sheet of paper, then your pen. Okay, so I am giving you 1 minute to pick out the transition words from the brick. Your time starts now. Time's up. Let's check your work. Alright, so these are the answers. So these are the transition words that we picked out from the brick wall. First, we have therefore. Next, due to. Consequently. Even so. In the same way. Furthermore. However. Similarly. And even though. Please check your work. So we're done with the part 1 of our practice exercise. Then next, let's have the part 2. So the direction is you need to fill in the blanks with the appropriate transition signals, and you need to choose your answers from the transition signals that you picked out from the activity 1. And again, write your answer on your sheet of paper. So let's have the number 1 to 5. I am giving does it too. So for number 1, it shows comparison. That's why it uses the transition signal similarly. It shows how Belle and her family love the scene. For number 2, we did not expect a heavy traffic on our way to the airport. Consequently, we missed our flight. Okay, so for number 2, it shows the consequence of an action. That's why the answer for number 2 is consequently. And for number 3, it was raining very hard. Even so, we need to finish cleaning the yard. Okay, so for number 3, shows conclusion. That's why it uses the transition signal even so. That even it is raining hard, they need to finish cleaning the yard. Number 4, the courageous frontliners showed overwhelming dedication in performing their jobs. Therefore, they were commended for their services. Okay, so for number 4, it shows the consequences of an action. That's why it uses the transition signal, therefore. For number 5, all borders were closed. Furthermore, all means of transportation were not allowed to operate. For number 5, it adds information or reinforces ideas. That's why it uses the transition signal, furthermore. For number 6, classes will formally open. However, it will not be the traditional face-to-face. So in number 6, it points out contrast. That's why we use the however. And for number 7, Gabrielle was not given permission to go out due to bad weather. Okay, so for number 7, it shows the cause or the consequences of an action. That's why it uses the transition word due to. And for number 8, all establishments are not allowed to operate. In fact, only the skeleton force of the offices is authorized to work. So for number 8, it adds information or reinforces ideas. That's why we use the transition words in fact. Then for number 9, even though Paulo was quarantined, he didn't feel isolated. Okay, so for number 9, it shows or point out alternatives or differences or the contrasting ideas. That's why it uses the transition words even though. Then for the last number, driving requires concentration. In the same way, biking needs full attention. Okay, so for number 10, it uses or it points out alternatives or differences. That's why driving is being compared to biking. That's why it uses the transition words in the same way. So that's it. So what's your score? I hope that almost all of you got perfect scores. Okay, so now it seems that you really understand our lesson. So let's have our activity. So for your activity, you have to answer these 2 activities. The first one is activity 2, which is entitled Close to You. It is located on page 13 of your module. The direction is you need to fill in the blanks with the appropriate transition signals to complete the idea of the paragraph. And you have your choices from the given pool of words on your module. So you will answer these activities on one whole sheet of paper. Again, you will answer these activities on one whole sheet of paper. Okay, so for the second activity or the last one, you need to answer the additional activity for activity 1, which is entitled Internalize It. Okay, so it is located on page 16 to 17 of your module. But first, you need to read the story, okay, before you answer the activity which follows the story. The story is entitled Makato and the Cowrie Shell. This is just a summary by Supani Kanchanatiti. Okay, so you need to again read the story for you to be able to answer the activity. So the activity is just like what we have done. You need to identify the transition signals used in each sentence. Again, you are just going to write your answer. For these activities, you need to write only your answers. Okay, so if you have any question, again, you may send me personal message. Okay, so that's all for today. Keep safe and God bless us all. And don't forget to have an advanced reading on Module 5, our last module for the first quarter, which is entitled Expressing Emotional Responses Using a Range of Verbs, Adjectives, and Adverbs. Okay, so this has been Ma'am Rovi, your English 8 teacher. Goodbye!